Thanks everyone for joining. My name is Cleta Quibell. I'm founder of both, and I'm joined today by Kelly Hubble of Sage House. Really excited to talk about this topic today in particular, which is about house managers and how it can help with reclaiming your time and make you parent better and everything. I'm going to waste no time in jumping right into this because I have a lot of questions for Kelly. And a lot of these were actually, I was joking with her, submitted by like my friends that I just had conversations with. A lot of us are in this stage of life of maybe we had a nanny or we had a caregiver, babysitter, any sense, and we're trying to enter this new stage where our needs have changed and adjusted. So Kelly, if you could start us out, maybe a quick introduction and then stating the obvious, like what exactly is a house manager and how did you come up with this?
Yes, so happy to. So, yes, hi, I'm Kelly. I am the founder and CEO of Sage House. We help busy parents find and hire more household support. So, you totally hit on it. It's household managers and family assistants primarily, but household support can look like a lot of different things for a lot of different families depending on their needs. So, I'm like happy to describe to you what a house manager is and does. And the best way for me to do that is by basically saying it's your clone. It is a second pair of hands in your home. It is someone that can come in and see what needs to get done and help you get it done in your home. And what that looks like tactically and logistically is my household manager, for example, comes in, sees that laundry needs to be done, that the dog needs to be taken on a walk, that the dishwasher needs to be unloaded, and that we're running out of Cheerios in the pantry, right? And so that is what a household manager does. I think what is so valuable about someone like that for busy parents is not only just having a second pair of hands, but like really having someone who can take a lot of mental load off of your plate so that you can get really refocused around what's important for you. If that's work, great. If that's making sure that you get your workout in that day, great. However it is you want to spend your time, it's really having a reliable support system to help you in your home.
Yeah, amazing. And I think everyone can think of a million things that they would need a house manager to do. But I'll call this the second question I was writing up to you. But like, why do you think so many parents then, especially moms, like struggle with this idea of outsourcing, right? If you gave me a list of things I would love to outsource, that would be no problem. But why do you think people struggle with actually doing it or getting the help?
Okay, so many reasons. I will start by saying most of it is societal expectations
Yeah.
and what we now call today like mom guilt. So a lot of it is we live in a culture and in a society that tells us that we can have it all, that we can do it all, and that we should be able to. And so it's these unrealistic expectations that are being set on us that cause us to feel like I can't ask for help. And
Yeah.
so I think that's changing. I really truly believe that we are at a point where moms specifically are putting their foot down and they're saying like, no, this is unrealistic. I need more help. And so then it's a matter of coming around to asking for the help. And then part of the other barriers, which I will call them, is figuring out what it is exactly do I need help with? How can I structure this? And like, how can I find the right fit for what I need in my home? I think one of the biggest barriers is people think to themselves, oh, there's no way I could afford a full time resource in my home. We're past the nanny stage. We don't need just childcare anymore. They write off this idea of getting more help when in reality, like, they getting 5 or 10 or 15 hours a week of assistance with all of the things that it takes to run a household could be a huge massive like lift off of their plate. And so those are a few things. So it's like societal, it's mindset, and then it's sometimes like just these sort of like mental barriers, financial mental barriers that we put on ourselves.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know, it's so interesting when you talk about the financial barriers too, right? Because I think a lot of people look at it and say, "Oh, don't have the finances to do it." But then you look at them, they're paying for maybe after school care so they can get certain things done, or babysitters on the weekend so they can get things done, or just outsourcing things altogether, right? Like instead of meal prep, like you're talking about, they're doing meal delivery kits, or I think so. There's a lot of trade off, but the identifying it can be hard. And so, one of the things I found really interesting is just even on social media, everything, there's a lot more talk about this mental load, and you talk a lot about it too. But maybe for someone newer to the term, or maybe who hasn't had kids yet and hasn't seen the impact of the mental load yet, like how do you explain the mental load, and like why is it so important to recognize the mental load on your own plate? Like how do you even put a list to that or name it?
Yes, there are a lot of aspects of the mental load that we can talk about. So I would categorize the mental load generally as all of the things that we are managing in our brain to make sure that our family is safe, healthy, and thriving. So that's super broad, right? But then if you break that out a little bit more, those can be categorized into like physical load, right? There's things that I'm keeping track of mentally that are physical, like laundry, making sure the dishes get done, making sure gas gets put in the car. Like those are physical tasks. And then there's more mental and emotional load. So it's like thinking about what's going to happen when my toddler wakes up and there aren't Cheerios in the pantry. Like, how am I going to manage that like emotional tantrum that's about to happen, right? So all of that is just, we are internally managing that as a parent, as a human. Even people who aren't parents, they have a mental load of all the things they need to do, all of the items that they need to do. And really, like, the best thing that we can do is start to offload some of that mental load and really think through what are things that someone else could take off of our plate, from concept to planning to execution. And that is a straight from Eve Rodsky's Fair Play, which is there are 3 steps of fully getting something off of our plate. And in fact, someone like a household manager or family assistant can do that for you. I'll give you an example so it's really tangible, right? Like the standing grocery list. Like we all just have staple standing things in our home that just need to exist, right? Like milk and bread and eggs and bananas, okay? And I found myself being worried that what happens if we run out of bananas? Because what if I have 3 kids? What if they each eat a banana like for the next 2 days? And then I don't know when the next time I can go to the grocery store. And okay, giving that to somebody else to just say, this is the standing grocery list. These are things we always need on hand. Done. I never have to think about bananas again. I never have to worry that like my 2-year-old is going to have a tantrum because there aren't bananas in the bowl. That is a full thing. So like handing something like a standing grocery list over takes that piece of the mental load completely off your plate.
Yeah, that is so true. And so funny that a lot of people listening to this probably are like, yeah, I've stressed about bananas. And we have 2 bananas left in our house, Kelly, and it's not going to make it till Monday's grocery stop. So like, I don't know what we're going to do. But no, I think that's great. And I'll skip over that because I think as you're saying a lot of this, like, obviously all of this resonates. And I think so many people want it. But I think the problem is having that much help feels like a luxury. And I think the hard part is a lot of people, though, that need this help are the ones working really long hours or full time, or just don't have the flexibility to run to the grocery store 3 days a week for 15 minutes. Like they need to have things planned out because that's all they have the time to do. And I'm sure you got a lot of this maybe even when you started this, right? Of just being like, oh, that must be nice, or what privilege, or like I could see that coming.
Yes.
So what would you say to someone who feels that way, and like how do you justify it? Or you talk a lot about how this is financially friendly for anyone, or you can work with any budget. Like how do you approach that, or what would you say to someone who feels that way?
The first thing I do is absolutely, in full admission, say it is a privilege to have support in your home. It is absolutely a privilege to be able to send our children to daycare. It is absolutely a privilege to have someone come and clean our home every other week, right? There are privileges that we have in life. Some of us, like I even view privilege in a sense of like community. I have really good friends. This doesn't apply to me, but I have friends who like their parents live down the street, or they live closer to family, or they have family who has the health benefit to be able to support them and take load off their plate and walk their dog or watch their kids for a couple of hours or whatever that is. So like Privilege, I will just say, can play out in a lot of different ways, right? Like
Yeah.
we can be physically privileged, we can be financially privileged, so on and so forth. Absolutely, yes. I think what going back to your question around like how could I afford this? This feels like such a luxury. If you really think about the time you're spending trying to multitask on getting things done in the very few hours of the day that you have to spend time with your family or spend time decompressing or spend time on your work, there are trade offs in life, there are trade offs in everything. And your time is valuable. And so it really is simply an equation thinking through like, how am I valuing my time? And especially in a dual income working household, we've decided perhaps to make this commitment to work. And as a result of that, we have income that we can budget for more assistance and more help in certain areas of our life. And so I think, again, it doesn't have to be big. Like I have clients who have a household manager or a family assistant 5 to 10 hours a week
Yeah.
at $20 to $25 an hour, which is a great job.
Yeah.
It's a way above minimum wage in certain places. And that having that is like so valuable to them that they're now like, we can never let this person leave.
Yes.
They're so valuable to our family. We love them so much. And I think, and then to your other point, I think we are already doing this in a lot of different ways. We pay for someone to come walk our dog. We pay for Instacart. We pay for meal kits. We're paying for little pieces of outsourcing, but we haven't consolidated them to say, hey, what if I hired like a person in my home to help me do a lot of these things? And like,
Yeah.
how would that bring a lot of value and like less management and mental load to my life?
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's, and we'll segue from that into just like, what's the first step? If you've never thought about hiring a manager, how do you do it? And I would think not making assumption, part of it probably is identifying like, what are all the things that you do and you need help with? Because I think I have two kids, one's 4 and one's 1.5. So we're on autopilot with a lot of things. And like most moms, I probably downplay the amount of things I do because it's just so automatic. But if you at point blank asked me everything like you're talking about, like buying the bananas, like organizing the clothes, taking, I don't know, everything that goes on, it would be, I would love to outsource that 5 hours a week. That would be amazing. But so, yeah, how do you get started and what would be the first step that you?
Yeah. Here, let me tell you like how I got started, and then I can tell you like how you can basically take the shortcut so you don't have to go the route that I went. So when I was feeling like this way, and this was 5 years ago, 4 years ago, right after we had our second, was really when I hit the ceiling and thought, gosh, the wheels are falling off this bus. I cannot keep it moving in this direction. What I did was I like started making a list of spreadsheet of all of the things that I was doing to manage our household. And I sat down with my partner and I said, look at this. And he took a look at it and he said to me, this looks like a job description. And that is how it started for us in our own household. Now, I have done 99% of that work for you because if you go on to like the Sage House website and click take the quiz, I will give you that list that I've created. That is probably all of the things that you're also doing managing your household. Okay, so the first step is making the invisible visible. So all of that invisible stuff that you are doing, figuring out like how much time you're spending is step one. And then from that point forward, it's figuring out like how you can either find someone on your own to help support you, or you could work with someone like me, Sage House, to help find that person for you. And that's exactly what I do. And that's the value that we provide, especially to busy working parents who don't have the bandwidth to go find their modern Mary Poppins for their own household.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so we'll definitely make sure everyone has that quiz link. But as you said, it's going to sagehouse.com and you can take the quiz. So one of the things I was like telling you about, but I just had lunch with a friend on Monday and they've had a nanny for a really long time. I think this is actually really common for a lot of people, especially that had babies during the pandemic, was a lot of people in some ways turned to in-home help or shared help because you had to have this little bubble and a lot of the daycares were closed. And so a lot of people in our circle have found nannies or part-time helper, mother's helpers, or things like that. And they're wondering like, how can this nanny transition into a house manager and like how would that conversation go? Just because those babies that were born 3, 4 years ago are now entering school. And so they don't need them all day at home, but there's still the drop off and the pickup and the activities and the errands and the grocery store, all of it. So what do you recommend for that? Or how does Sage House help with that or any of the things you have?
Yeah, yes, like absolutely. I think what I've found in working with parents of kids of all different ages, right? Some are still in like the nanny phase. Some are kids are like as they go to elementary, as they like start to come up, like different families have different needs. And like you always have needs, but they shift a little bit, right? So they're shifting. And so what I've found, especially in the transition you're describing, is needs shifting from like the majority being childcare to like, oh, there's actually a lot of household management that I feel car management, household management, pet management, all of that stuff that like we could really use help with. And that is what I refer to as creating better systems. I call that like home systems. And so if somebody has like a nanny or a mother's helper or someone, but they're still feeling like, oh man, I'm still doing a lot. I'm still managing a load. I'm still writing them a list every day or whatnot. I have developed essentially like a home systems platform and digital course to help people get from here. I'm here, but I need to be like with fully delegating roles and responsibilities and really clearly like managing my household from a systems perspective and like operations. And so I have the answer for that too.
Perfect. Amazing. Yeah, because I think that's a really common one. And I think there's a lot of people say, of course, if I could have this nanny stay the rest of my life, but it's just not realistic on both ends. And so I think that's a really great one. And then on the reverse end, I think there's like a lot of people who have a very tight budget. And so to your point, you were saying you have some people that do as minimum of 5, 10 hours a week. So what are some creative or part-time ways to bring that into your life without a full-time hire? And I think also from your end, I think maybe people are skeptical who wants to work 5, 10 hours a week, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who, as much as you would want flexibility in your job, that's their flexibility. So, anyways, maybe you could say both sides of the coin. Why it
Totally.
works.
Yes. So people will ask me this question all the time. I do like informational calls a couple times a week. And I actually think this is the one that comes up the most, which is, are you sure you'd be able to find somebody part-time for me? There are people out there who love working with families. They want a part-time role just like this because they're a student or they're going back for grad school or they're running their own little business or whatever it is. They freelance and they love this kind of part-time role. It's typically very flexible, which is wonderful because my socks don't need to be washed by 9:30 a.m. They just need to get washed that day. And so that's one thing I love about this role. It's flexible. So yes, like there are people out there who want part-time work. There are families out there who want part-time support. And we're really like helping those people find each other.
Yeah, I love that. Amazing. And okay, so I saw this question actually come in, so I'm going to read it because it's in line with this.
Oh yeah,
But
great.
so what would you say, and I'm sure this is so situational, but what's a good weekly hourly commitment for a successful house manager? So if this sounds awesome, like what would it look like? It says every house expectations are different and the relationship with this person would be highly dependent on someone who gets it and knows the expectations up front. Is there a household handbook or a guide template, or like how do you figure out how many hours you would need?
Yes. Okay. Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
So what I would say to this person is go take that quiz.
Yeah.
Go make the invisible stuff you're doing visible so that you can understand like how much total time am I spending? And then you would break out parts of that. So if you see there are 5 things on that list that you could really get off your plate: laundry, grocery shopping, dishes, walking the dog, that adds up to 9 hours a week. Then by looking around based on your geographic area, you could then like back into what your budget could be for someone for 9 hours a week helping you in your home.
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just to recap, like a lot of what you're doing, especially with the quiz, is when you say make the invisible visible, is you're looking at what are all the things that you're doing on autopilot automatically, just try to think of every single thing. And then you turn that into tangible hours. This is how much time you're spending on all the
Yep.
things you're doing. And then breaking it down further to be like, okay, maybe I say I walk the dog 2 hours a week, but those are like my times. I like enjoy walking the dog,
Yeah.
but I
And you
don't
wouldn't
enjoy doing
give
this.
that
Yeah,
up. Yeah.
exactly. And divide it up. So yeah, hopefully that helps. If it doesn't, you can comment again. But I think that, yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me. And maybe this might be helpful just for people trying to put it into real life examples, but do you have one or two stories maybe from your clients about hiring, how doing this changed their family dynamic? Like and all of this is relevant, right? It's
Yes.
stressful on your job, it's stressful in your relationship with your partner. So I'm sure alleviating the things has an impact.
Yes. Oh man, absolutely. Yeah. I just worked with a family in South Bend, Indiana, of all places, and they have 5 kids ranging in ages from 2 to 12
Yeah.
and never had additional support before.
Yeah.
And they ended up finding a perfect fit. We found this amazing woman to help them on a part-time basis around 30 hours a week to take kids to and from activities, help them prep dinners for the evenings, all of the things that this mom was doing. And when I just caught up with her 6 weeks ago, she said to me, Kelly, you rescued my family.
Yeah.
She said, I just signed up for a half marathon. It's something I've been wanting to do for over a decade since I started having kids. And she hired a running coach, and like she is out there like finally doing something for herself. And I just found that to be like so powerful. And I was just so happy for her and just
Yeah.
being able to reclaim her time and like identity in doing so. And that's just one example of a family that I helped. There's another family in the Bay Area who really needed more support in the early morning hours. And they were like,
Yeah.
there's no way someone's going to be able to come at 5:30 to 7:30 a.m. for the morning rush. Sure enough, we found like the perfect person who was like a nursing student who had those hours available and could come in, get kids dressed, get kids out the door for school, clean up the morning breakfast, like basically made their mornings smooth.
Yeah.
That they felt like, gosh, this like really changed our relationship with each other, with our kids. Like it just made our family more peaceful in the mornings.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's what holds a lot of people back, right? Is exactly what you just said of no one's going to want that. Like no one, and for me, even like when I left my full-time role, I only needed someone to come twice a week because I still have the boys, I only work part-time. And I said the same thing. We found an amazing person who like also works at a restaurant and is school. So to your point, there's so many people that need flexibility that can do that. But for me, it was a daunting process that took me forever to find, and you probably could have found it 10 times faster if I knew you before at the time, which is great. And I guess, like, on that note, so, like, what do you wish working parents knew more about getting help at home? I feel like you've been saying it a few times, but
Oh
just
gosh. I just wish they knew that they don't have to go and do it on their own, that like they can even get help to find the right fit, because like you mentioned, it is so much work to go and find the right person for your home, and the good people get scooped up really fast.
yeah.
And so having a dedicated resource to understand your family, know your needs, like really get what you're looking for and go out and find that for you is just again that in itself is mental load lift, right? And it's basically like a turnkey solution for you. That's exactly what we're doing. And that is 2 years ago, if you told me I would have been doing this, I would have laughed at you. But really the reason that I am doing this for families is because that's what they told me was going to be most valuable for them.
Yeah.
And that is how I pivoted my own business model to make the biggest impact I possibly could in helping as many families as possible.
Yeah. Amazing. I think like everyone can benefit from that. And that's so good. I guess where would you say people can start today, even before they hire anyone, to start thinking about their mental load? And I actually, like when I was typing up some questions for you, one of the things I was thinking about too is of course expecting parents, right? And
Oh
I
yeah.
have many friends who, like myself, I relocated from out of state. My parents don't live here. It's not like we have mom and dad down the street to
Mhm.
help, and we were panicking about the not having a village. And I don't know, what advice do you have? And if it's just like putting a name to everything you're doing, what would you say? is a good place to start?
Oh, oh gosh. Yeah. I would just say start really critically thinking about your support system and like, what does that include and what does it not include? And it's always hard, right, to tell someone who isn't a parent yet, like how, what to expect. And you never really know what to expect. But I think the only thing that I would say is support is so important. And like, if there are expecting moms out there who were anything like me and I went into motherhood with a lot of gusto, with
Yeah.
I'm going to be a do it all. I'm going to be a super
Same.
mom. I'm going to go back to work 3 weeks after I have a baby. I think again, like these are these unrealistic expectations that we've just been told,
Yeah,
and they're just not realistic. And you really need good support. And the sooner you can really get that ingrained, get someone, really integrated into your family systems and routines and get the support that you need, your physical health, your mental health, your relationships with your
yeah,
partner will be like so much happier and better managed with support systems.
totally. Yeah. I cannot say that higher. We've gotten really lucky with the types of people in home who have helped us and they've just gone above and beyond. And it's like what you were talking about, even just like making the morning run smoother. It's like that extra set of hands is just so critical when you're trying to find shoes and pack the backpacks and husband has a meeting. It's a lot, especially if you're on your way to work too.
Oh
Um,
gosh, and especially for those of us who have partners who travel.
yeah,
My husband is a small business owner, he travels a lot, and I know a lot of us, when it's just you and like your partner is traveling, like you need some help. You need some,
yeah,
yeah. So I think for especially like a lot of clients I work with have traveling jobs, and that is like crucial for them.
totally. Or as people in their career are, blossoming in their career, right? Like if you're about to take an opportunity that has
Mhm.
more, I know that's always been a partnership discussion, even in our own household, is I'm about to take on this role that has more responsibility and may involve more travel or things. And it's okay, great. That comes with more financial income, but how do we offset that? And so being able to know like there are some ways you can do that
Yes.
is
Yeah.
helpful. On the note of just paying, so another question came in about the logistics of it in terms of like taxes. So a lot of this is obviously like some people are used to just having someone they pay cash or like I don't think everyone understands how it works. So how exactly do you treat like a house manager as an employee or part-time? Like do you have payroll service? Do they issue a 1099? How do
Yeah.
you start helping people now?
This is a really good question. And the answer is it just really depends on the family and how they want to set it up. So ultimately, it's up to like our clients on how they decide to move forward in terms of paying an employee. That being said, like we have how to become household employer guides and around taxes and liability and insurance, and all of that advice is what you get by working with us. But I would just say one of the really important things is making sure that however you do end up doing that is it's documented, regardless of if however you end up paying someone. I think many times people will get into relationships with someone without really documenting the roles and responsibilities. And by having what we have, for example, is like an employment agreement that our families can use, is really like spelling out exactly what the expectations are, exactly how much this person is getting paid, what the sick time policy is, all of those logistics are so important in as you get into a relationship with someone. And so yeah, I wish I could like give more logistics, but it just totally depends on where you live, depends on, and I'm happy to answer those questions sort of one-on-one if anyone wants to reach out.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, and I know that's always varied with we've lived in 3 different places since we've had kids, and it's always varied on what the other end party wanted and how to track it, and if we wanted to take advantage of the tax side of it and everything. But I do think having an agreement is so important because there is like the expectation too around travel. What if we're gone for the week? Do we still pay?
Yeah.
Like all of that gets really complicated. So it's good that you have some templates and guides and things like that. Okay, amazing. I will probably just say one last question because we could talk about this all day and wrap it up. But I would just say if someone is listening to this right now and they're super overwhelmed, like they know they have so much on their plate, but they don't know if this is right for them. Because having
Yeah.
someone come into your home is a personal thing, right? Like
Totally.
giving your laundry to them or having them be with your children is something big. So if they're not sure what's right for them, what would you want them to know? Or what do you think would be a good thing to consider?
Yeah, I would just say one, I would say jump on one of the info calls. I host 2 calls a week where we talk more in depth about like exactly what this could look like for you. And I answer questions specific to like families to see if this could be a good fit for you. And I share like what are the next steps in working with me. I guess what I would say in general is just give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen kind of thing? Do you want to find the right person and the right fit? Yes, absolutely. I think giving a 30-day trial period in this sort of scenario of someone supporting you in your home and just like seeing how that goes is what I would recommend. Find the right person, give them a trial, see how it goes. And I will tell you that I've yet to have a client come back to me after 30 days and say, oh, yeah, that didn't take a lot off my plate. I'm
Yeah.
good. I don't need this person. Okay. In fact, just the opposite. Like literally every family is, I don't know how I lived this long without this kind of support because we
Yeah.
don't realize how much we're doing until we stop doing it. And we think to ourselves, like, I'm sure you do this all the time. I'm like, how did I do that?
Yeah.
Wild.
I don't know. Like I said, I had a baby born during the pandemic, and so we always had an in-home nanny. And we've always done it a flexible route, Kelly, in the sense of I actually have never had like a 40-hour a week nanny. Luckily, I had a work schedule that was somewhat flexible enough where like my husband and I staggered our meetings, and then we had that. So we like always kept it under 35, even sometimes 30 hours. But with that said, it was just like going down for nap time, getting help with the dishes, or going down for nap, running an errand, or doing things well that I couldn't do. Like my husband and I used to joke on Saturdays and Sundays, we'd wake up and we'd be like, wait, when's she coming over? What do we like, what do we do? We need help. And it just becomes like a truly third member of your family. And yeah, it's true. It truly is life changing. And it does make an impact on your work and your relationship and everything to have that level of support.
Literally so life changing that
Yeah.
I have completely pivoted my
Yeah.
career from tech sales
Yeah.
to help other families get a life change this good. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, like it changed my life so much that
Yeah.
I just want to do that for other families.
Yeah, I love that. And just reminding for everyone who's listening or watching this, can you help anyone in any area, city? Like, how do they get started
All
with
over.
you? Okay, just enter the
All over the
quiz
US and Canada,
and
even small towns,
yeah,
we have been successful at like rural areas, small touristy vacation towns. We found great, fantastic help for families all over.
amazing, amazing. Okay, I will continue to direct people to your site, fill out the quiz, ask you questions. I know you do a lot of resources on social and everything like that. So when I do end up sharing this recording, I'll make sure to include some of those links and everything. But yeah, I mean, you can tell how passionate you are and not you're just like preaching, but you also use a house manager. And I even have gotten ideas from following you about the types of things you have a house manager do that I'm like, oh, that is so smart. Like I need to
My
use this.
house manager currently at this very moment that we are speaking to each other is taking our Subaru in because we got one of those like smog test requirements.
Yeah.
Okay. She's doing that this
Yeah.
afternoon for me because I'm like, when am I going to go to be able to get 30 minutes that way?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm telling you,
Yeah. And I think that's what's amazing about that too is I think a lot of people like feel bad, like, right, as if they're like giving someone a task that like no one wants to do. But I think to your point, like this is a way that a lot of people who want a flexible job, to your point, are earning a good income for themselves by taking that 5, 10, 20 hours a week. And do they mind going to do that? Probably not. They want to be helpful in the same way that you have seen how helpful it can be to help people find that.
totally, absolutely. And to your point, we are starting to, we are going to be rolling out at the end of this summer more training and certification programs for people who want to become household managers.
Amazing.
Yeah, keep an eye out for that too. For anyone here who's, oh gosh, I know someone who might be really good at that. We are always looking for like super qualified, just amazing humans,
Yeah.
even those who like might not have experience, because again, this is like a new category. There's not a ton of like household management experience, but like
Yeah.
we are helping people get certified in that so that they can become part of what we call like the Sage House Village and then get
Yeah.
paired up with other families.
Totally. What a way for someone even to like re-enter the workforce, for lack of a better word. Like, we always talk about how being a mom is like such leadership skills. And if I saw someone who was a house manager and they interviewed for a role at my company, I would hire them because I'd be like, you do all the
Yeah,
things.
you can multitask.
Totally,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah. I always thought I was am like kicking myself. I'm like, man, I wish I had a job like this when I was in college instead of
Yeah,
bartending until midnight.
totally, totally. It's like being an EA for a household, like being an executive assistant for
It's a
someone's
lot of
house.
learning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. That's amazing. Okay. Thank you. I wanted to try to wrap it up by 40 after
Yeah.
just to give people some time and you, but thank you so much. If I see any other questions come in, I will direct them your way. I will post the recording and resources and everything, but it's, as someone who benefits from having someone in my house, I thank you for what you're doing. And I hope that more people do get the help they need and don't feel guilty about it and find something that works for their budget. Cause I agree. It's so important. And once you break the stigma around that too, of just reallocating some of your DoorDash dollars or cleaning into something like this, I think it all just makes so much sense. So,
Totally.
yeah.
Thanks for this conversation. And I
Yeah.
appreciate you because I think that is the only way that we are going to like truly break out of this mindset and cultural barrier that's been put in front of us. And so, anyway, I appreciate you for
Yeah.
having this conversation.
Awesome. I will scream Sage House from the rooftops because I love it. Amazing. Okay. Thank you so much, Kelly, and we'll talk soon.
Okay. Bye.